Hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and today we have an extra special live episode coming to you straight from Westwood High School, home of the Warriors. In fact, it's not actually live. We're just recording it in person. Easy for me to say, right? We have some incredible guests today, including Allison Seitz, District Director for Mesa Public Schools at ElevateEdAZ, Chad Jacobs, instructor at Westwood High School, and three talented juniors, Zeno Trent, Jackson Kelley, and Noah Gransee. Did I say those names right?
Said the names right.
Yes.
Yeah. What did I do wrong?
We're sophomores.
You're sophomores?
Yeah, we're sophomores. He's the only junior.
Well, I blew that one.
Yeah.
Welcome, sophomores and single junior. This is going to be a really high energy, exciting conversation. So let's make sure to stick around and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
So, guys, we're going to start off with some questions for you, the students. Then we'll transition into some questions for Allison, and then we'll do Mr. Jacobs because he's about to teach a class. And then we'll do a quick tour. So if you are listening to this, make sure to check out the YouTube channel because you'll get to see a tour of Westwood High School, their CTE program, robotics program, and it'll be some pretty cool stuff. So you guys ready for some questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for all three of you, doesn't matter who answers first, how did you first become interested in the manufacturing industry, and what do you find most exciting about it?
I don't know. I think Jackson should go.
Yeah, you're the
He
oldest.
started it last time.
Go ahead, Jackson.
Thank you. So the way I got into manufacturing was I actually didn't even know it existed until I randomly put it on my class schedule from last year.
Okay.
And I didn't even know what it was. I just saw, manufacturing. I haven't been in the engineering building yet. Sure, I know that's in that building, so I kind of want to take a tour.
You did the
I
same
did the
thing?
exact same thing. I just
Okay.
randomly found it on it. I'm like, this sounds interesting. Might as well. I want to go out to the 900s.
So what do you find most exciting about it?
I'm actually making stuff because in the other two CTE classes that I'm taking, welding and auto, you do make stuff, and I think in welding last year, I actually made a little welded, I want to call it a plant pot, but it was just some type of cup with a stand. But that was the only thing that I kept from welding, and auto, you can't really keep a car from the school. So
Sure.
Here in manufacturing, you actually get to keep what you make, and you actually have different projects. In welding, it's more of just keep practicing your welds, and in auto, it's just learn the machines. And if there is a car that you want to work on, you can bring it in. But here you actually kind of have a structure, which not saying the other classes don't, but this one, it feels more structured, and there's more satisfaction. And manufacturing, it's different than the other two classes in atmosphere.
Yeah.
Especially with the students, because you may not talk to everyone in the classroom or in the class, but you still have a feeling of they're part of my class, need to help them when they need help.
Yeah.
While in the other classes is kind of do your own thing.
Got it.
It's a lot of team building and working from time to time. He has us work in pairs.
Okay.
When we're doing newer things, but half the time we're on our own.
Yeah.
You don't really have a problem with it though, because it's not that hard to learn the machines once you actually pay attention and actually try. But half of the class doesn't do that.
So, Zeno, how did you find the program?
I did the same thing as Jackson.
Okay.
I just found it on the paper, and I'm like, it sounds interesting. William's been out there, which is my older brother. My older brother graduated from Westwood, but my older brother has been out here. He's been in this building, and he took engineering when he went to school. So I'm like, I might as well go out there just for the fun of it. And so I chose manufacturing because it was something I've never heard before. I'm like, it sounds interesting. Might as well go for it. So
what's the most exciting thing to you?
I actually like the taking away part. I like being able to drill holes or like face things.
Okay.
I like destruction.
So Noah, same question to you. How did you first become interested in the program, and what's most exciting about it?
Well, I had first done the engineering program here. That was one of the reasons why I came to Westwood. And
So were you not slated to come?
I'm not within the boundaries, but because of IB program, I can come to Westwood High School.
Got it.
And do the learning behind that.
Got it.
So I'd taken engineering first year as one of my electives, and halfway through that, so beginning of semester 2, I joined robotics thanks to the invitation of the previous engineering teacher here, and he showed me how all the machines work and let me watch some of the CNC operations that we were doing on the robot to kind of build it.
Yeah.
So I became interested in that and found that because I have another elective spot, I should probably try that. And I decided to try manufacturing, and I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's your favorite project so far?
My favorite project that we've done probably is the dice. They're not completely finished for me yet, but by far it's the one that you have to have that I put the most effort into and had the highest quality standards for myself, and they're turning out pretty good.
They are sharp. Zeno, what's your favorite project so far?
I don't really have one because they all have like one part that went wrong at some point.
Well, that's
The
part
only
of the learning
yeah,
process, right?
The only one that I would say that actually went well was the Tina, and I enjoyed it because it was symmetrical, satisfying to do, and it was a repeated process on the cutting.
Yeah.
Because you had to go from one point to another point, and then you just moved it, and then you go from one point to another point. I like repeating processes.
It's a great career for you then.
Yes.
Jackson, what about you? What's your favorite project so far?
I would either have to say the scribe or the dice. I like the scribe because, in my opinion, it's the best part that I've made.
Okay.
And it's something that I can actually use while manufacturing.
Yeah.
But the dice is probably a close second because, I mean, they're dice.
They're
it's
dice.
fun.
Yeah. Who doesn't like dice? So guys, we had met originally back in January. You came to a ATMA event, a dinner meeting where we did a couple of things. We talked about the future and Skill Up Arizona and what we were doing. We had a panel, but you guys really stole the show that night. I don't know if it was only Jackson.
He started it.
He started it for sure, but y'all, all three of you finished it.
Yeah.
I mean, so share some of that experience with us. And this isn't even a question that I prepared, right? So talk to us about being sophomores and a junior in high school, right? Going to an industry event. Talk to us about your experience meeting some of the people who you could potentially be working for in a couple of years. How's that experience been for you guys?
It was intimidating.
Was it really?
Yeah. I also have a problem with authority figures already. So I don't like older people. They scare me. I have a problem. So it was intimidating. I had a panic attack before it even started.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had to walk away. I sat at the table and I just stayed there before the entire thing started because
You pulled it together well.
freaked out. Yeah. But it was very loud. It was interesting because you get to see how many people are actually in an industry that you just now like found out about.
Yeah.
So it's surprising because it's like I just found this thing, but I didn't know it was already like this big.
Like a thing.
I didn't know it was like already a massive
Yeah.
like
sure.
industry. So it was intimidating.
I get that.
Disliked it.
Do you think that it will affect your decision, good or bad, to go into the industry?
No.
Okay.
But I'm not a public person. I don't like crowds. So
Got it.
the dinners are always nice to go to when I'm with classmates.
Your people.
Yeah, I like being with people that I already talk to.
Yeah. I think that's human nature.
It's scary to talk to new people.
Noah, what did you think about the dinner?
I thought it was a really great experience to connect with, as you said, to connect with people I might be working for, but also just to meet the people behind some of the things that go on here in the shop. Like some of the aluminum that we get. I met the guy who who works for the company that runs that, from Industrial Metals.
Yeah.
And it was just neat to see that there are people out there that are supporting this thing, whether it's directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
That allow us to be better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jackson, what about you? What did you think of that dinner meeting?
I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed it. It was kind of intimidating, as Zeno said. Like, me personally, I don't have a problem with like big crowds. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
But meeting like some of these like heads or like representatives for all of these companies, it was like I don't know, it seemed like I was just some small, like at first it was just I was some kid invited to this big meeting.
Because you were.
I mean, okay, yeah.
No, yeah, you felt like so small compared to them. It's like, I feel like I don't belong here.
So let me ask you a different question. Again, not prepared. You've been now to 2 dinner meetings for the ATMA. You've heard a lot of people talk about the future of manufacturing, but not any one of them have been young people. So do you guys think that your vision for the future of manufacturing is aligned with what the current industry leaders think is the vision for the future of manufacturing? Do you think that your ideas are represented when you go to these kinds of events? Or do you have something else out there that is the future of manufacturing that isn't quite being represented at these dinner meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one of the best ways that industry leaders and people can get into supporting the future of manufacturing is ultimately through STEM programs in the schools. So, for example, robotics, or as people have back the manufacturing program here.
Yep.
And just kind of supporting that and having people be able to come out and perhaps speak to some of the classes or programs.
Sure.
Just to kind of show them what they're doing in day-to-day operations and tying that back to the classroom.
Yeah. It isn't as like widespread to the younger people as you would think with how they want everything to be, because I think reaching out to the younger people would be helpful, because then they could go further and stay on that path, or like bring different ideas to it.
Sure.
Nothing should be confined to a certain group. It should be spread. And if they want to like make the industry of manufacturing big, but they need to reach out to more than just a certain group, in my opinion.
So what group do you think that there is?
High schoolers, junior high kids, because going from junior high to a high school, they could have an opportunity to join said manufacturing class.
Sure.
But just showing people that manufacturing is a thing and that it happens behind the scenes in almost everything would probably bring a lot more people in, because they would be more interested in it and they might want to make or create. Same thing.
I meant what you knew.
But to create like things that may not have been thought of because it's a different like mindset, like a different headspace that they're in.
Sure.
So, like Noah said, have people go out and like explain to people that this happens behind everything.
Sure. Jackson, any thoughts from you?
Kind of just like one thing that I thought of was have like one thing that would help the manufacturing like industry, in my opinion, would be like listen to like the younger people.
Yeah.
Like let them or like listen to them. Let them know that you're interested in what they're saying, because something that I've seen like with my friends who aren't even in manufacturing is that they could be really passionate about something or like really like to do something, but then out of nowhere they stop because no one listens to them. No one recognizes what they're doing.
Yep.
And something that I am kind of guessing with my generation is that we're having a problem with like satisfaction.
Our
Yeah.
attention spans have gone down.
Well, that's probably how we were raised, because
Yes.
we were definitely given more TV, more whatever.
Yeah, it's
Well, it's all readily available.
Well,
yeah,
right?
it's an
I mean, like,
attention span thing.
smartphones weren't a thing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you guys
It's-
were born
it's-
and they were there.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a generational disconnect somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Oh, for
there,
sure.
there definitely is.
Yeah.
And
But I
it's-
think for the most part, a lot of the parents of your guys' parents' generation, they've done the best they can, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've used the
Definitely.
tools. They're just different tools than when I was a kid, or when Allison or Mr. Jacobs were kids, right? The tools that parents have change from generation to generation, and I think they've done that. But I think that is something. I want to zero in on your satisfaction comment, right? Like, what do you mean by your generation and a level of satisfaction? Is that like career satisfaction? Is that like holistic mind-body balance? Is that, what are you talking about?
I was thinking more like in general satisfaction, because what I've like kind of picked up from a lot of my friends and other students is that we don't feel like we're being heard from adults. A lot of times, like we try and talk to like one of our teachers, and they just kind of brush us off. I've had teachers like that other teacher before, and I know a bunch of my other friends and other students have had teachers like that, have had parents like that, have had adults, managers, like that in their life. And so it's just something of like, we want to feel like we're heard.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got two more questions for you guys. If you could give advice to younger students who are potentially considering exploring careers in manufacturing, what would you tell them?
Don't touch the drill bits. That's the story. That's the story.
All right,
So
let's hear the stories.
it was actually for our tap log. I forgot which one I was doing, but at some point was it that one?
I think so.
But at some point I had autopilot, and when I was pulling out the drill bits, I touched it with my bare hands, and then my brain figured out, wait, hold on. And so I dropped it.
Do you have any fingerprints left?
I do. I magically do. No, don't worry. After that day, Noah wrote on the board X amount of days without Zeno getting injured. And just yesterday, Mr. Jacobs recommended making an award for me because of how accident prone I am in this classroom.
Okay, good to know.
I'm so frustrated.
Don't drop it.
Knock on wood.
There hasn't been any big ones.
Don't drop the award.
Stop.
All right, so don't touch the drill bits. No, what's your advice for future generations?
I would say you do it. The worst case scenario, if you don't like it, you spent a year making cool stuff that you can take home and show to people. And if you do end up liking it, it's a whole new career that you probably never would have you would have never seen if it had not been for you exploring it.
Sure, I like that.
Give it a chance and start early. because this is my first year in manufacturing and I'm a junior and I wish I started it earlier. I wish I had known about it earlier because I love this class. It's my favorite CTE class that I've taken at Westwood. And I wish that I had started earlier because like I don't know how many years in this program there are. I think there's 3, right?
I think he's planning for 3.
Yeah. So I won't be able to get the full experience.
Sure.
I'll only get 2 out of the 3 years.
Can you do summer school?
We don't have it next year.
No.
Jim, I know that you're the one asking the questions, but how can we better advertise it?
Yeah, that's gonna be next. Good question. That was Allison Seitz from ElevateEdAZ,
Shop
everybody.
tours, literally.
Shop first?
Oh, yeah, freshman came in.
Last year, the robotics put on a shop tour
Okay.
that basically they had all the freshmen walk through here from the freshman academy.
Oh, yeah.
And that was we got
That was
so
good.
many new engineering students from that. But the manufacturing program, we didn't really highlight that because robotics, it's focused more on engineering. You know, they went over the CNC, but not really over any of the projects. So I think if they can hold the stuff that they make in their hand and see, I can do this within the next year, absolutely like the best way to get the new people to come into the program.
Make something to make your mama proud.
Awesome. So guys, what haven't I asked you? I mean, we've talked about some pretty cool stuff here. What is the one thing that you wish somebody who is older in this industry would know about you guys, your generation, your thoughts, your vision, all of that stuff? What is the one thing that you want to share with however many people listen to this podcast?
One thing that I would share is that a company and the employees and the leadership at a company should not feel like a company. It shouldn't feel like, oh, I need to go to job. I need to go to my job. I need to deal with this person at my job. It should feel like a family.
They should advertise like manufacturing, like I want to say factories, like the actual creation of manufacturing, the action of it as actually being something that is fun to do and not just like manual labor or something that you just go to and do all day and then go back home. No, you need to advertise it as something that's fun to do.
Yeah.
Like you want to do it. You can see that you can make things. Might as well do it. It seems fun. Kids love to make things.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of times teens will get a bad rap for being procrastinators
Yes.
or they don't like doing work, but we're very hardworking people. If you want to let someone prove themselves, let them prove themselves, and if you give them the benefit of the doubt, they will probably go higher than your expectations.
I agree with
Especially
that.
with just this generation.
I
We're
agree
very
with that,
hardworking.
Yeah.
And
Like I
in
said-
my opinion, sorry, Zeno, but in my opinion, yes, there are lazy people, but we also kind of need those lazy people to come up with ideas on how to make something easier.
Yep.
And like, there should be a healthy balance of lazy and hardworking,
Sure.
in my opinion. Because I know I'm lazy in a bunch of other things, but when it comes down to it, I will get stuff done.
Yes.
And I will become a hard worker. And if I have a job, I work hard at that job.
Yeah.
And something that like a lot of, I think, I don't think people realize like the reasons why we are lazy is because we don't feel like something matters.
Okay.
Like,
So you have to have a connection to the
Yeah.
higher purpose of what you're working on?
because
It's an attention issue, like I said.
like
Ah.
personally, I'm not doing so well in some of my core classes
Sure.
because I don't plan on going to college. I plan on going immediately into the workforce or into a
Trade school.
trade school.
Okay. Like an apprenticeship program? Or
I'm actually trying to get an apprenticeship at Boeing
Okay.
for next year.
Very
But
cool.
or internship, not
Yeah.
internship. Yeah.
I know what you do.
Yeah.
Again.
And figure out what you are willing to work hard for.
Yeah.
So one thing I like about our little group that we have is we're very diverse in our own. And when we get those classes that we really like, we never feel like we have them long enough. That's how I feel. I love this class. I
Yeah.
love manufacturing. I would love to have it for 2 hours a day, but I can't.
So isn't there a program here at Westwood that is like a dual enrollment program where your junior year or senior year, you're able to go take classes from Mesa Community College and some of your regular classes are taken there as well?
I can speak on that personally. I am currently in dual enrollment honors chemistry. You don't have to be a junior.
Okay.
But there's a professor from MCC who teaches here at school on school grounds
Okay.
in the science building.
All right, guys. Do you feel like you got your voice heard?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Attention manufacturers. Are you looking to take your company culture and employee engagement to the next level? Look no further than TCO Strategies. We offer comprehensive company culture assessments, employee engagement surveys, and leadership development programs designed specifically for manufacturers like you. With our expert team, you'll get the tools you need to understand your employees, improve communication, and drive success. Don't wait. Invest in the future of your business with TCO Strategies today.
I am now joined by Allison Seitz from ElevateEd, Arizona. Hi, Allison. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We are so pumped to have you on today. Allison, you were initially part of the interview we did with the students from Westwood High, but you had to run out in the middle of the recording or at the end of the recording there. So we didn't get a chance to wrap up that interview. So here we are now a couple days later, wrapping that up and connecting to really understand how ElevateEd Arizona helps CTE programs in the state of Arizona. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So tell us, Allison, a little bit about ElevateEd and what your role is as the district director for Mesa Public Schools.
Yeah, so ElevateEdAZ is an amazing initiative of the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation. So if I can draw you a little picture here, we have sort of the chamber, the Greater Phoenix Chamber on one side, the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation on the other side. They sort of work arm in arm. And then underneath the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation, we have our 4 pillars. So we have education, workforce development, wellness, and research.
Wow.
We are super laser focused on the education pillar within ElevateEdAZ underneath that Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation umbrella.
Got it.
So a little bit about my journey. I started as what we call a college and career coach at Westwood High School. So I was a boots on the ground coach, and my role was to connect students in CTE pathways with work-based learning, with career pathways, really, really incredible things. And what we focus on at ElevateEd is really that connection to college and career in high wage, high demand areas. So of course, manufacturing falls under that high wage, high demand umbrella.
Yeah. Awesome. That's fantastic. That's a fascinating job that I didn't even know existed until you and I connected at the Mesa Public Schools office. I think what you do is phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah. My role has shifted a little bit in a district role. So I moved up about a year ago. I can't believe it's been that long. And now work to sort of support coaches at more schools within Mesa Public Schools, doing the same amazing work that I was doing when I first started.
That's awesome. Fantastic. That's got to be a really rewarding experience.
I love what I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how do you think the manufacturing industry can benefit from collaborating with educational institutions like Westwood High School, especially at that high school level?
Yeah, well, I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey into
Let's
how
go. I love that.
started with manufacturing. You can't see me on the other end of this podcast, but I do not look like I belong in the manufacturing world. I just sort of happened upon it and have been really loving it ever since. So when I was at Westwood, so Westwood High School has a phenomenal manufacturing program. And we got a grant through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation about a year and a half ago to really do some in-depth work with that manufacturing pathway at Westwood High School. So what we were aiming to do in combination with a whole bunch of phenomenal stakeholders, so Mesa Public Schools, ElevateEdAZ, the foundation, Mesa Community College, a ton of industry folks, right? All these people came to the table and said, how do we connect kids, A, into this pathway at higher rates, and B, to a college degree by time they hit year 13, right? So the year after they graduate high school, we want them to have the option to complete their associate's degree, which means that they would get 30 dual enrollment credits while they're in high school. Absolutely unheard of.
Wow.
And so cool for these students to really have that opportunity. So like I said, we partnered with all these amazing stakeholders to get that work done. And I am going to answer your question, I promise. So
I love the journey. Let's keep going on the journey.
So when we brought industry folks to the table to do this work, what we heard was, A, we don't have enough people to fill these jobs, and B, we really don't know how to market these jobs to young students in a way that is meaningful to them, their parents, their guardians, right, their support systems.
Sure.
Manufacturing sort of has this stigma for being dirty and low paying. I don't need to tell you that, right? But that is how our students were feeling about this manufacturing pathway.
Interesting.
So when we brought these industry folks to the table, in combination with education partners and the chamber and ElevateEdAZ, it was really like, we have so much work to do together. Where do we even start?
Sure.
Right. And really where we started was the beginning, right? What kinds of jobs are you hiring for? Who do you need? Who do you have right now? Who are you, really open to bringing in? And it was a really eye-opening journey for me because we really had the opportunity to build this thing from the ground up, which you don't always have the option to do.
Right.
I'll give a shout out to Chad Jacobs. I know he's on this episode as well. He was a new teacher in a new space, and he jumped in with both feet head first and said, all right, we're going to do this and we're going to get more students involved. So a really long roundabout way to answer your question, but I have to share the journey because I think that journey is so important for the foundation of the work and for the work moving forward.
Yeah, I think I agree that foundation is super important. And I want to go to something that you said in there is that the students have this perception of what manufacturing is.
Yeah.
And So let's talk about that real quick. And where do you think that, I mean, you've been in education, you've worked with kids pretty much your entire career. Where do you think that perception comes from? Is it from TV shows like Dirty Jobs, or are these kids too young to even know what that show is? Am I dating myself by using that as an actual reference? Or is it parental perception that is passed down by generations? What do you think where do you think that perception comes from of the industry?
Yeah, well, we actually did some interviews with students, and we said, hey, what the heck's going on? Like, how do you feel about manufacturing, and why do you feel that way? And where does that come from? And I would say 90% of the students that we interviewed, and we interviewed a good portion, 90% of the students that we interviewed said, my parents and guardians don't want me to go into that field. They want me to go get a college degree. Which I think is really points to why the work that we were doing with Accelerate Ed was so critical. Because it was, you can go to college and you can have a really high paying, successful career. And it doesn't have to be an or, it's an and.
Yeah, it's not a zero sum game is what I'm hearing, right? It doesn't. It can satisfy that parental desire for their children to succeed in a way that maybe they didn't, or maybe it's a legacy thing for them to go to, that higher education, but also gives the student themselves an opportunity to work in a very rewarding hands-on career.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of that is that folks don't know what manufacturing is, right? It's not marketed super well. And that's not a knock on Mesa Public Schools. Chad, don't come for me, right? But just as a whole, right? Like, students don't know what manufacturing is. And I use this example all the time when I'm speaking to business and industry, right? Because when I'm talking to business and industry, they're like, but you don't have to go to college and you can get a high paying job. Like, why aren't people coming to us?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is, if both of your parents are janitors, you might not know that you can be anything but a janitor, or whatever that is, right? Whatever you're exposed to. We call that the exposure gap in education, right?
Interesting.
You have to learn what you don't know in order to know it. So we actually, one of the things that I think makes ElevateEdAZ so cool, lots of things, but we use an interest and aptitude profiler called U-Science, and I will try not to get onto my soapbox here. So forgive me if I do, just knock me down.
I'm sure that the people who are listening are interested to know what U-Science is, because when you explained it to me, it was a very fascinating thing. And so I was going to ask you to talk about that anyway. So this eliminates me having to ask that question.
Awesome. Okay. So everybody out there listening, Jim gave me permission to do this. I just want to make that clear. So U-Science is an interest and aptitude profiler, and it's geared towards high school students. They also have a junior high version that's a little less in depth, but my background is workforce development prior to my education experience, and I've used tons of interest profilers, and ONET has some things, and Bureau of Labor Statistics has some things, and I've never seen something quite like this. So imagine the power. Right, you sit down, you take this. They're really just brain games. Are you familiar with like the ASVAB?
Yeah, absolutely.
So similar to that, right? Just sort of gauging your aptitude for things.
Got it.
And then you take this little interest profiler at the end. I think it's about 100 questions, but really what makes this stand out is I get to go to students and not only say, look at all of these things that you're interested in, right? But look at all of these things that you're good at that you didn't even know existed.
That's pretty amazing.
I'm going to throw a really intense, mind-blowing stat at you. So
bring it on.
We had, I am super, super passionate about women in manufacturing, right? Yep. I think, well, that's a different soapbox, but something that is very near and dear to my heart, and women in the trades in general, really, right? So we had, out of our just about 1,000 freshmen who took U Science, we had 81 young women who showed an aptitude for manufacturing. Not a single one of them showed interest. Not one.
Astronomical.
And so I'll tell you a little story. What we did is through Accelerate Ed and some of the work that we've been doing within ElevateED, and I have to give a huge shout out to Maddie Winship, who is the college and career coach currently at Westwood. She put in a ton of work on this.
She's a wonderful human being.
Oh my gosh, she is. But we target marketed these young ladies and said, you show an aptitude for this. Have you ever thought about it? Right? And we had some really phenomenal teachers who also supported the work. Shout out to Sean Reedy, the lead career exploration teacher at Westwood. He convinced one of his freshman young lady students to do a job shadow. And we brought 12 students that day to Allied Tool and Die, and the name may have changed, so please feel free to correct me.
ATD.
Thank you. ATD, yep. I knew it had changed. Sorry, Catherine. But so we brought all of these students, including one young lady. And I will tell you that young lady who showed an aptitude, but not an interest, walked around with eyes as big as saucers all day. And I sort of buddied up with her and was asking her questions. And she said, I did not even know that this existed. I did not even know that this was a pathway for me.
That's so bonkers to me.
It's so bonkers.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so powerful, right? Like we go back to that exposure gap.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. So the story has a happy ending. She's in the manufacturing pathway for the next year.
That's awesome.
And I am confident that would not have happened without U Science, without ElevateED, without some really fantastic teachers, without a really amazing college and career coach, right? So it's up to us to create the conditions that make these happenstances, right, possible. And my hope through this work, through this pathways work, through ElevateED, is that it doesn't feel like happenstance as we continue to do this.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing story on so many different levels. Allison, I'm wondering, how do we, as an industry, create a process that is scalable to doing exactly this, right? And what does that outreach, what does that marketing effort look like? You know, say we get even a quarter, even 10% of the high schools in the US on board testing aptitude using U Science. And under 1%, right, of young women. I mean, that's what, 0.0, 81%, right? I
Mhm.
guess, are interested in a career or had tested, show an aptitude for manufacturing careers
Mhm.
or skill sets. How do we then target them, and who's the appropriate body to target them with tours, with
Mm.
more education about the industry? I mean, is that something that is the government's job, the federal government? Is that a
Mhm.
state government? Is that local? Is that trade association work? I mean, help me out. I've got this idea in my head, but I can't quite formulate, and I think I need your expertise here. What's that
Yeah,
look like?
yeah, I appreciate that. Education is moving that direction, right? Education is ready to meet industry where they are at. So I think it's all of us, but I think um, the struggles that I have seen in my experience through Elevate Ed, through my sort of foray into the education world, is that education is already doing this work. Where we fall short is that industry connection, that business piece. So we can tell students all day long that you have an interest, you have an aptitude, right? You fit this pathway. But if we don't have that outside support from industry, they can't connect it. They can't connect it to their futures, right?
Yeah.
So this is really a call to action for our business folks. Get involved. Go speak to some high school students, right? Open up your shop for tours. And I'll just be blunt, right? Your workforce is struggling.
Yeah.
And you need to find that connection. And your schools, wherever you are, your schools are open to that. Connect with your career in tech ed folks. They need you and you need them.
That's so powerful. So powerful. I love it. So Allison, share with us, you talked about this, collaboration, job shadow idea with this young woman and 12 other students at ATD here in Phoenix. Tell us about some other success stories you have from the collaboration between Mesa Public Schools, Westwood High, and local manufacturing companies.
Yeah, I am going to call out, first of all, we have lots of examples. It's been really, really incredible, just the way that industry has showed up to support our efforts here. I'm going to call out one company in particular. Tiffany Bellows, I know you've heard that name. She is the workforce stability leader at Boeing Mesa. And I reached out to her about a year ago, actually, really to this day.
Okay.
And said, hey, we're having some mock interviews at Westwood. You want to just come hang out with some freshmen for the day? And she didn't even hesitate. She said, yep, I'll be there. Wow. And I put her in front of these students, and I was terrified, right? Because freshmen can be sometimes a little bit scary, especially if you don't interact with them on a regular basis, right? So yeah. And she took it in stride. And there was one student in particular who showed up with a resume. He wore a nice suit. He knew that he was going to be put in front of Boeing that day. And he dressed to impress, and he was prepared. And I met her at a different event a little bit later that week. And I said, hey, so, how did the mock interviews go? How you feeling? And she pulled this young man's resume out of her pocket. And she said, I've been carrying this resume with me. We got to get this kid in for a tour. And that was sort of the beginning of our relationship with Boeing. They now host interns. We just re-upped for 4 manufacturing, engineering, what have you, interns next year. We've had 4 successful interns this year.
Wow.
And, I just want to call Boeing out for really being a leader in the space.
Yeah.
We hear all the time that it is so hard to bring students in to industry, and there's all these liabilities, and that's true, right? I'm not discounting that. But if Boeing can do it, so can you.
Yep. They've found a way around a lot of the issues
Yes.
that have historically plagued companies with walking the talk, I guess is the best way to put it, right? And this program, and Tiffany in particular, she's a future guest on the show. 2 or 3 weeks from now she'll be on. But the work that she does is astronomical, and the open arms that Boeing is welcoming these high school students in is absolutely phenomenal, and
Yes.
providing them a pathway for their future. It's really it's astronomical. That's a great success story. Thank you very much. Allison, that's, I think, all the questions I'm going to ask you. What kind of parting thoughts do you have for our listeners before we transition to the next segment here?
Yeah, I want to take that Boeing success story to the next level.
Do it.
So within Mesa Public Schools and all of the work that we do with ElevateEd, we really talk about building social capital, right? This idea that if students are able to network, to sort of get to know industry, they can do anything, and they can. So we have a student who was interning at Boeing this year, and he is going to receive a full-time offer. He's
Wow.
He's gonna work full-time for Boeing. He's gonna get his tuition paid for. And that is why we do the work.
That's amazing.
That is it. And I think industry feels a lot of pressure to sort of give students the moon, right? You don't have to give students the moon. You just have to give them an opportunity. And that's what ElevateEd is about. That's why we partner with all of you, with our amazing educational partners, right? It's all about doing what's best for kids and building that social capital.
Absolutely. No, I love it. And those kids are the future of this industry.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Allison. I appreciate you being on today. We're going to transition now to the next segment.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I had a great time.
Looking to improve your employee retention? Start by perfecting your onboarding and training experience for new hires. Check out Trainual to see how they can help you scale your growth and make onboarding easier and more efficient than ever. Check out the link in the show description or on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast partner page at manufacturingculturepodcast.com. All right, Mr. Jacobs, thanks for joining us. Can I call you Chad, or do you want
Absolutely.
Mr. Jacobs? All right, so Chad, as the instructor here at Westwood High, what's a way that you've used to inspire your students that you have that come into this class that may or may not know about careers in manufacturing? How do you inspire them to explore those careers, and what kind of avenues do you take for that?
Well, in the different classes I teach, we try to learn different skills in different parts of engineering and manufacturing. So students learn a lot of design in the Intro to Engineering course, and that involves them getting to make things, right? So they use 3D printers and laser cutters, and then they get to use files and bandsaws and hot glue guns, and so they put things together and make them move, right? The advanced manufacturing, they love it because it's a lot of hands-on, right?
Yeah.
Start with basic hand tools, work on projects, and the kids love doing things. So that's the way we try to inspire them to manufacturing, is by making things.
Sure. And talking with the students earlier, that was, in their words, the best part about this class and the classes that they're taking here is the things that they get to physically touch and walk away and feel like they accomplished at the end of the day, but it's something they can take with them versus the auto mechanics class or the welding class, where you can't take a vehicle home with you, right? And it's the projects in the welding class weren't something that you can necessarily walk around and parade, but yet the dice, the scribe, some of the other projects that you guys are working on, they're tangible.
Students really like to have something that they can take home, something that's theirs, they've made. And this is my first year at Westwood High School doing manufacturing and engineering courses, and it's very much project-based, right?
Yeah.
Project-based learning has been around for a long time, in the sciences, and so as I reflect on this year being my first year doing these courses, next year I want to do more of that, right? Make sure there's more projects, and even in the engineering courses, right? There's more things that they can build and take home, right, throughout the year.
So where were you before?
I spent most of my education career at Skyline High School, teaching advanced physics.
Oh, wow.
Physics, advanced placement physics, which goes right into engineering, right? Because engineering is all applied physics.
Yeah.
And so that's been a pretty smooth transition. And I've always been a pretty much hands-on guy. I've worked on cars, a lot of welding projects.
Sure.
I think it was probably, it's been 14 years now when I first got interested in milling.
No kidding.
So I did a course at ASU with other physics teachers. I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is a different kind of making things that I hadn't done before.
That's awesome.
So that's when I decided I need to buy myself a mill and take some classes in manufacturing as far as milling. And so that's where my interest came. So Westwood High School, they've got this great facility that I've known about for probably 6 years, right? Since its inception, pretty much. And so when the opportunity came to come over here, I was like, wow, that's going to be a big change, right? But it was a good one. Yeah. So I took the jump.
That's awesome. I love it. How do you stay up to date? I mean, being an educator, you rely on industry, you rely on a lot of different people. How do you stay up to date on trends and technology to ensure that the students, when they leave, know all about the cutting edge technology and what the future of the industry looks like?
Part of that involves the teacher's own personal training. So I've always kept going back to school.
Sure.
Right. So when I taught physics, I always kept going back and getting more master's degrees and more courses and working with other people. And it's collaborating with others and asking questions is a big deal.
Sure.
Right. So getting more training, and even now, and for the manufacturing, I am doing more classes this summer. I've been training on the CNCs all year, which is a big leap if you've never run a CNC.
Absolutely.
Going from the design to the tooling pass and the feed rates and fixtures and how you mount things, and of course just the operation it's really cool, and it's a big learning curve.
Yeah.
And once you get into it, then it kind of tapers down a bit. So
and so where are you taking your classes?
This summer I'm taking some classes in California at I think it's Orange Coast Community College.
Yeah.
And it's one of 3 training centers that Gene Haas Foundation puts together.
That's awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be 2 weeks in June for me.
Hey, gets you out of the heat here
right.
in a few weeks too.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then also taking tours of manufacturing facilities. So I've done a number this year, and I'm going to take some kids on some tours.
Yeah.
To see what's out there. So they tell us what is the cutting edge? What are they doing?
Got it.
So then I can relate it to the students.
Got it. Awesome. So I'd like this question, and I asked the students which question they thought was going to be the best one for you. And this is the one that Noah said. Can you tell us about some of the most memorable moments you've had while teaching students about manufacturing?
Well, yeah, the students, they love to work on the project, and I love to see what they're doing, right? And the most memorable, it's really important that you follow instructions, right?
Right.
You read the build sheet. What is the part we're going to make? What are the dimensions? And measure, right?
Yeah.
So memorable things, oh my goodness. Noah's on the lathe and he's turning apart. And it was looking like he's turning quite a bit, right? And then I come back and say, have you checked it? Is it the size yet, right? So it's okay. And I know in my mind, it's getting too small, right? This diameter is not where. So I walk away because you got to let people learn on their own pace, right? And you got to be willing to let students or let people make a little bit of mistakes, right?
You got to have the freedom to fail.
I come by 5 minutes later and man, it's small, right? I said, what is it supposed to be? He said, I don't know. Well, that's our first problem.
So, do you charge the students for material?
No, most of the projects, no, there's course fees that come in.
Sure.
So we can buy materials and the parts aren't that big. So no.
Okay.
It's okay. It's all right.
So most importantly, Chad, Mr. Jacobs, what advice do you have for other educators looking to integrate manufacturing education into their curricula that may not have a facility as beautiful as Westwood's, right? I mean, that's what I see as some of the problems, at least in the state of Arizona. Can't get students involved, right? Because we're not involving the students at a young age about these classes. Can't find instructors, right? They're very hard to come by. And we can't find facilities, right? So I know of another high school further west of town. They found an instructor. They've got a ready student base. Their facility is not big enough to put a program on campus. So we've made the connection with them with Westmec.
Mm-hmm.
Westmec has this beautiful lab they're not using. Maybe we can get them connected, right? That being said, not everybody has the access to Haas, to the space even to put something like this together. How can educators go out there and at least introduce young people who may not be a good fit for that traditional 4-year post-high school model? How can they get kids interested in careers in manufacturing?
Well, I think they need to, I think a teacher could introduce some form of project-based learning in their classroom, right?
Sure.
3D printers is one way to go. They're very popular. But honestly, in 3D printing, there's not a lot of manufacturing learning.
Right.
I mean, it's a very easy thing to do.
Right.
I would recommend maybe CNC routers.
Okay.
That's a big step, right? The CNC routers are reasonably priced.
Low
And you
footprint.
can make a lot of things with that, and you learn about feed rates and different materials and the laser cutter.
Yeah.
If schools can invest in a laser cutter,
Okay.
that is probably the best manufacturing machine you could use, because you can make all kinds of 3-dimensional objects.
Yeah.
Tongue and groove things that put together.
I love it.
Mills and lathes, that is a huge leap forward for a school to try to put in, because they're expensive, and finding an educator, which are nearly impossible to find, that somebody that is willing to learn it or has a little bit of experience in it.
Right.
That's almost an impossibility. So I'm not sure that really answers your question here.
No, it does.
You know, that's a hard one, right?
Yeah.
That's a hard question.
Well, I think the general answer that you started with, the project-based learning,
Mhm.
I think that you said it earlier, it's not a new concept, right? But I think that it went away for a little bit there.
I think so.
And I think that some students, that's just how they react.
Right.
They react better to
Mhm.
that than some of the other learning modalities. I mean, I in talking with those 3 students earlier, their grades may not be great on the main campus, right?
But they're doing well here.
But they're doing
They're doing really well here.
I've
They probably have some of their best grades in this course,
Exactly.
right?
That's the neat part about manufacturing,
Mhm.
not only as a curricula, but also as a future and a career
is, yeah.
path. You know, a lot of kids get into this pathway
Mhm.
the same way they pick up on soccer or basketball or
Right.
you know, sports or other activities like that. It's pretty neat. Do you see a lot of that come into this class? I mean,
Well, I'm hoping so, right? A lot of the kids that come into this class didn't really know what this class was. And I think a lot of the kids were just kind of signed up for this class. So the enrollment is not really based on the word of mouth yet,
Got
but we're hoping for that.
Got
So if kids come into this, then they can easily transfer to MCC and complete a 2-year degree for free here in Mesa.
right.
Well, we have this thing called the Mesa Promise, where any student in the city of Mesa can go to their first 2 years of college for free.
Really?
The city will cover any additional financial aid they need. And MCC has a great manufacturing program over there.
Yeah,
And
they
so
do.
we're going to be partnering with them.
Good.
So our engineering courses and our manufacturing courses, students actually get dual enrollment credit,
That's great.
which will transfer right into the program over at MCC, which is just one avenue.
Yeah.
So the schools that don't have the mills and the lathes and advanced manufacturing, they can do a lot of things, right?
Sure.
CAD design is a big one, right?
Uh-huh.
We use SolidWorks here, which goes right into manufacturing because that's how you make the parts.
Absolutely.
So that's something I'd recommend that schools get into, is have a good CAD program,
Okay.
because kids actually love those programs.
Yeah.
They get to design. And what can they make? Easily make things on a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Easily cut things out with a laser cutter.
I love
And
it.
if you have a small CNC router, then that CAD design goes right into a physical part, right?
Absolutely.
You can make, right? So
Absolutely.
that would be a pathway I'd recommend for most schools that don't have the infrastructure of having a big facility.
Yeah.
An instructor that can do all the other things, right?
Sure.
Because there's a lot of smart educators out there that can do CAD design.
Yeah.
And you can take science teachers, you can take CT teachers.
Yeah.
You can take teachers that do drafting, because most of that's CAD now, and give them an additional little push
Mhm.
to start doing some more manufacturing in that course. A lot of the CAD courses I know of, they'll make little houses out of balsa wood, right, with razor blades,
Yeah.
which is good, right?
It's a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
But let's go one step further and get that teacher a CNC router.
Right.
Get them a laser cutter so they can make better parts, right?
Yeah. So they can make those parts.
They
So
can make the parts they're designed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also, we should be using we should definitely be using calipers, learning measurement skills for the things we make. So that's another thing we could introduce, which I'm not sure calipers are a big part, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to use a caliper.
Yeah.
We use micrometers as well, and it's really cool to learn how to measure parts, right?
So Chad, last question for you.
Mhm.
What is it that you and your program here at Westwood High School need the most? And this is an unscripted question, but I want the listeners out there, if you have resources available to you that you can support a program like this, get in touch with me at the show. I'll connect you with Chad. But what is it that you need the most for this program to really move it forward in the direction you want to take it?
You could use some industry partners that allow some maybe job shadows or internships.
Okay.
We've got these students that take the course here, and then it'd be great if they could do like a summer internship,
Sure.
or an after-school internship, and actually go to a real facility where the student could see what else there is and maybe help out on the floor. That would be really helpful. We also run a robotics program here after school. The robotics program integrates the engineering and the manufacturing, and we compete in FRC robotics, which is the big league internationally. It's super cool, and we could use some industry partners that would like to partner with us and sponsor us.
Awesome.
Because it's a really cool sport, and we could even use mentors that would like to come in after school.
I love it.
And work with the kids on design and manufacturing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Okay. So if somebody's interested in sponsoring or mentoring, whether they're here in Phoenix or remote, right? Because I know some of our listeners, we have international listeners now, which blows my mind, Chad. Do you want them to get a hold of me and I connect them to you?
That would be absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You can also look up Westwood High School here in Mesa, Arizona, and I am easy to find.
You're the only Chad Jacobs on there.
Right? You'll find me, no problem.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Chad. Thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for sharing your shop and your knowledge with us. It's such a cool facility you have.
And we have great kids.
Yeah.
I love the students we have here at Westwood High School in the manufacturing program.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. A huge thank you to our amazing guests, Allison, Chad, Zeno, Jackson, and Noah, for sharing their insights and experiences with us. We hope you enjoyed this special remote episode from Westwood High School. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with your friends, family, and colleagues. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes exploring the world of manufacturing. And remember, together we can elevate the future of manufacturing education. Thank you.